Hi, my name is Dayo, D1 Adine, but you can call me D1. You're watching the Mid-Morning Show on BCOS. Don't touch that dial.
It is not cliche when we tell you not to touch the dial. You're welcome to Mid-Morning Show. My name is Belumi Asende, and you know it's our Wednesday episode, our personality of the week interview, and then it's not a one-man show. Yes, you're welcome on board, and I'm also saying welcome on board to meet up. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Good morning. It's good to have you back.
Thank you
Last
very
week,
much.
It was with Idowu Shikoni.
Okay.
And, it's good to have you back, Sha.
Thank you. It's good to be back. Good morning. And my name is Temitope Olubodo.
Okay, like I said, Wednesday's episode, we have a personality of the week. And today, from someone who rose from being a producer to being the general manager of this prestigious corporation. The former general manager. Yes, you're wondering who's the person? Don't worry. You're going to see him shortly after we take this feature on leadership. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us.
Leadership is one of the most discussed yet misunderstood concepts in the world. We see leaders in government, businesses, schools, communities, and families. Yet, despite its prominence, many still confuse leadership with authority, popularity, or power. Leadership is not a position. It is influence. True leadership is service, not control. In many parts of the world today, leadership has acquired a negative reputation. We have witnessed selfish leadership, insecure leadership, and leadership driven by personal gain rather than collective growth. We have seen leaders who are threatened by the success of those around them and who create environments where people are suppressed rather than empowered. Perhaps this is why many people have become disillusioned with leadership. The word itself often evokes images of power struggles, manipulation, control, and the pursuit of personal interest. Yet, these things represent a distortion of leadership, not its true essence. The failure of some leaders should not cause us to abandon the concept of leadership itself. Rather, it should challenge us to rediscover what leadership was always meant to be. Many people believe that a title makes someone a leader. Society has conditioned us to associate leadership with status, visibility, and influence. Social media has amplified this misconception, often giving attention and authority to people who have not yet developed the character necessary to steward influence responsibly. However, leadership is not measured by how many people know your name. It is not determined by the size of your audience, your job title, or your position in an organization. Managers are not always leaders. Parents can be leaders. Students can be leaders. Teachers can be leaders. Friends can be leaders. Leadership is unseen and sometimes messy work that others avoid. They understand that's potential where others see limitation. A servant leader invests in people before expecting results from them. A servant leader listens before speaking, understands before judging, and empowers before demanding. The best leaders understand that their influence should not end with them. They intentionally multiply themselves through people. They pour their knowledge, values, wisdom, experiences, and convictions into others, not to create replicas of themselves, but to raise individuals capable of carrying the vision further than they ever could. True leadership is not threatened by growth in others. In fact, it actively pursues it. They recognize potential, nurture it, challenge it, and create opportunities for it to flourish. This kind of leadership requires humility. It demands the willingness to share platforms, delegate responsibilities, and celebrate the success of others. Secure leaders understand that their legacy is not measured by how indispensable they become, but by how many capable people they leave behind. When leaders multiply themselves in people, their impact extends beyond their lifetime. Their values continue. Their vision continues. Their influence continues through the lives they have invested in. In this way, leadership becomes more than a position or a period of service. It becomes a living legacy carried forward by others. The most impactful leaders are not remembered because they accumulated power. They are remembered because they multiplied potential. They mentored others after they were gone. This is the essence of legacy. A leader who builds everything around them creates dependence. A leader who builds people creates sustainability. That is the heart of leadership. That is the heart of service.
Hello, dear viewers. My name is Jibola Dabo. Keep watching Mid Morning Show.
Okay, I would say that was really concise and that was really profound.
Yeah.
That feature on leadership. All right, welcome back. It's still the Mid-Morning Show on BCOS television. And like I said, today we have someone who have walked the soil of this prestigious corporation and, you know, I would say a community leader, a thespian, and as well a farmer, also a writer, okay? You're wondering who the person is. We have with us today Mr. Olatunde Jonathan Ajayi. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. It's nice
a pleasure having
being on
you
the program this morning.
Thank
I'm
you,
so
sir.
happy because coming back home
Exactly.
and haven't had the opportunity of sitting down on this
And you
side
had
of the
to-
divide. You know, in those days I had to be there, you know, as supervisor, producer, whatever. You know, but here today, being presented as the guest.
Thank you for coming,
Good
sir.
morning.
Thank you for
Good
coming.
morning.
Temitope and Pelumi, it's nice seeing you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Well done.
Thank you, sir. All right. So we know that you've been, you know, the director of program for
Yeah.
this one, so you probably know how Mid Morning Show runs. And on Wednesdays we have a personality of the week, which
Yeah.
happened to be one today. So we want to X-ray your life, you know, look at the lessons, you know, from childhood till this very moment. So we're going to take a trip down memory lane. I saw in your profile that you were born in Ghana.
Yes.
I was like, oh, maybe you should have a Ghanaian name.
Yeah.
Well, I was
We
born
can
in
start
Ghana,
from there.
yes.
All right,
Because my father, my mother traveled to Ghana, so I was born there. And I recall that I went to Foley Chrome Primary School in Ghana. And I also know that in those days, you know, children being who they are, we understood the Ghanaian language very well. In fact, we used to be the ones interpreting the language to our parents because, you know, we were going to school and that through that influence. And at home, we learned Yoruba language. And so- but after a while, having, you know, settled down again in Nigeria, we forgot the language.
language.
Children.
So how was growing up in Ghana for you?
Yes, it was fantastic. I could recall that the school we went to, each time they wanted to do the National Day celebration, they would give us chocolate, they would give us a lot of things, we would bring them home. Children will love that so much. You know, there was a time we used to keep a cat. I remember that very well.
Wow.
And there was something that amused me about the cat. Whenever the cat wanted to poo, it would go into a heap of sand, dug the heap of sand, and then poo there. I could recall that so much. So I learned a lesson from the cat.
Yeah.
So human beings, instead of us defecating everywhere, a cat, as small as it is, an animal, has that intelligence to be able to do that. So I picked that from
The car.
The car.
the cat, right from Ghana.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me say, transitioning back to Nigeria, how was it for you? How were you able to cope and balance it up?
Yes, we came back to Nigeria, I think, in the 70s. We were and immediately, I'm a native of Ilora in Oyo State.
Okay.
Immediately we came back to Nigeria, we were taken to Ilero because my parents had some brothers, sisters who were then staying in Ilero. So we did not stay in Ilora. We were
Okay.
taken to Ilero. And there in Ilero, I could recall that, as children who came speaking the Ghanaian language and a little of
Yoruba.
a little of Yoruba, and probably distorted kind of Yoruba, because the tongue was just beginning to adapt to the Nigerian environment. So they used to make jest of us, when we were in school, these Ghanaian people. Not knowing we are Nigerians, and all of that, I recall that.
Okay, so living, I would say that Ghana then was still like an urban country.
Yes.
So leaving that place to
Ilero.
Ilero, like two different
Oh,
worlds.
sure.
How did you adapt? The life, a different life entirely.
Oh, sure, it was.
Yes.
It was a different life entirely. But one thing about children, then is, you usually adapt quickly, because you move with students in the school, and all of that. You play together. In the process of doing that, once you could play around, you tend to forget that you are in a different environment,
Sure.
and
That's
that
right.
kind of a thing. So that became so easy for us.
Okay.
But of course, there was a marked difference, between where we were coming from and where we were then. That was quite evident in some of the things that happened.
Can you recall to mind any experience, growing up that you still reminisce on, and you're like, oh, I love this experience that I had?
Yes, when we were in Lero, my father was then a farmer. He was a trader of note.
Okay.
In fact, that was why he had to go to Ghana. He was, because he was a trader and he was making it. And then Ghana was also rich in gold and things. The economy of Ghana was booming then. And my father was such an industrious man.
Okay.
So he left with his family, with his wife, and because I was born in Ghana, and with some of my other brothers and sisters. So so he was when we came back to Ilero, he was farming, and I could recall there was this day we were at home. We would go to school, come back from school, and stay at home. Then he had gone to the farm. Then he came back, and he said he harvested some okra.
Okay.
And he kept then the okra in a basket under a tree, a particular tree in the farm. He was able to carry some of the baskets home, but he couldn't carry a particular one. So he called all the children and he said, who among you is ready to go to the farm to go and bring the basket of okra? No one was willing to do that. I had my sisters, my elder sister, of course, a woman. My younger brother wasn't, so I raised up my hand. I said, I will go. And my mother was like, hey, you alone going to the farm in the evening, towards evening? I said, I will go. So I went. And as I was going, it was not easy for me, all alone. The road leading to the farm was a wide one, but by the time you get to a particular point, it was just a narrow path. And there was thick bush on the right hand and then the left hand, and the birds, singing, and the animals, all other animals singing together, sometimes instilling fear in you and all of that. So I got to where the basket was. I had my fear, sincerely speaking. I was very afraid. There was a time I would run, and at the time I would trek. Eventually, I got to where the basket of okra was. I carried it and started coming back home. Lo and behold, before I got home, the rain started. It rained heavily, but as a child, you could imagine the fear that my mother, was in.
Yeah.
at home because she was like, this child. But she could not tell my father that he should not send me to the farm. So the rain was falling, but I managed to get back home, so I got home. On getting home, they have been expecting me. You can imagine how happy everyone was. My father was happy, mother, my siblings, they were all happy. I was soaked, heavily soaked. They gave me the best treatment that night.
Preferential that day.
Preferential. So they had to remove my cloth. They gave me another cloth to wear. They did fire for me. They asked me what I would eat. They prepared tea for me, that kind of a thing. So I became the king at that moment. So I recall that very well. Yeah.
That's such a beautiful one.
And another thing that I could recall was when I wouldn't just know what happened to me. When I was in Lero, in my primary school days, I was an Olodo.
Oh, wow.
Yes. I was an Olodo. I was always feeling.
It's hard for, elderly ones to admit that when they were...
Sincerely, I was one. I wouldn't know what happened to me. So, primary school, I was just feeling like, with all the ease I was feeling. But something happened. There was to be a turn of event for me when my father died eventually. He died in 1971. And we were brought back to Ilora.
Okay.
So on coming back to Ilora, maybe the death of my father was responsible for my turning to be a serious person. Because then I could now see that I wasn't serious when I was in Ilero, in my primary school days. But now my father was gone, and I started thinking, well, now I have to face life, and I knew I had to survive and all of that. So my story started changing, and I started making first, second, third position.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Then I went to LA School, Aro, in Ilora. So that was where I completed my primary school. I did primary 1, 2, 3 in Ilero. But coming back to Ilora, I repeated 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, wow.
I repeated 3. So then I completed, my primary school there.
Okay. Okay. Losing your dad at a very tender age.
Yes.
Yes. What were the challenges you faced aside from the educational aspect?
Oh, yes. Father died and he used to love me. Those kobo he used to give to me, I couldn't have that because my mother would not understand that. He loved me especially, so each time I needed bread, granite, I'll go to him, and he would give me the coins to go and buy it. So that I missed that one. And apart from that, when we came back to Ilora, the family had to hold a meeting, my extended family members. They held a meeting and they decided that they would distribute us, the children, to all the family members, which they did. So I was asked to stay with a brother to my father, Pa Agbo Ade. He's late now. Okay. So though I was staying with my mother, I was living with her, but he was, Baba Agbo Ade was responsible for my education, paying my school fee, buying my books, buying my uniform and all of that. So the same thing happened to my other brothers and sisters. They distributed. That was the family arrangement. To ensure that we lived, and lived comfortably.
So I saw that in your profile. You left Ilora for Ibadan.
Yes, sure.
School in Ibadan.
Yes.
So do you stay with the Paragwade?
No. Let me tell you that. There was another younger brother to my father, Chief Abel Ogundokun Odeleye. Okay. He was the Ashipa of Ilora. So he was a senior brother to Baba Agbo. Okay. So at a point when I finished my primary school education at Ilora, there was this day he was in Ibadan. Okay. Chief Odeleye was in Ibadan with the family. He was one of the commissioners in the Civil Service Commission here in the Secretariat. He was, a top civilian, civil servant then. He was a top civil servant in the service of Oyo State then. So he came to Ilora. He used to come to Ilora weekends and all of that. So he came to Ilora one day and he visited our home because he used to come and check the wives of his brother, his late brother.
Oh, okay.
Look after their welfare, look after our own welfare as well. So there was this night he came, and each time he came, the children would gather around him, greet him, he would ask us about our welfare and all of that. So then he pointed at me, he said, so what are you doing? I told him I just finished my primary school. He said, okay, that's very good. You are going to go with me to Ibadan. Oh. I said, it's okay, sir. Yes, in those days, because it was, the family, came together, it was an extended family, but they wanted to ensure everything because they didn't want anything to happen to the wives and to Ron's children and all of that. So the man said that. I said, yes, sir. So by the following week, I came to Ibadan. So that was that. So on coming to Ibadan, I was enrolled at St. Gabriel's Commercial Secondary School at Mokola.
Okay.
We were living at Onikoko then. Onikoko is along the secretariat, the federal secretariat.
Okay.
That was where we were living then, because like I said, he was a top civil servant. So he had a quarters, a government quarters there.
Okay.
The place is where the IUFMP, used to occupy, and that's where the building is.
Okay.
So I was enrolled, at St. Gabriel's, and I started my education then. Again and again, something happened.
Okay.
When my first year in St. Gabriel's, Mokola, I failed. And that was expected anyway because, I was coming from Ilora.
Yeah.
Somebody who used to take first, second, or third position coming back to Ibadan. Joining students local champion coming to the city. So, and some of these students they were students who went to private schools, who could speak English much more than I could and all of that. So, so I failed. My first term, I failed. Second term, I failed. Third term, I managed to pass.
Okay.
So when I brought the result home, Baba looked at the result and he said, "Oh, fail, wọ́n sì gbọ́ lọ́rùn."
Oh my goodness.
That was what he told me. Wow. But as a child, that had a lot of meaning to me.
Yeah.
Àwọn ológbọ́ lọ́rùn yẹn. Who are the people here? You're correct. Pelumi, thank you. That was my feeling then. I said, I failed on earth. And my father that I loved so much that I would never want to disappoint, heard in heaven that I failed in my school exams. I didn't like that. And one thing, Baba Odele, he had worked even as a chief librarian at the National Library in Lagos before coming back to Oyo State.
Okay.
So, in the house, that was the first time I would see a house that had a library built. So there was a library in the house. So, and my other brothers and sisters, fantastic, brilliant students in school, making good results.
His own children.
Yes, making good results, fantastic, because the background, they had.
Yes.
So I started looking at them, watching them, copying them. I would also lock myself in the library, reading novels. That was when I read Great Expectation, Alice in Wonderlands. They used to have all these books, the famous 5, all of those, yes, they had them. King Solomon's Mine, Ivan Holmes, what's the title now? I can't remember, but a lot of them. So
Okay.
I started reading stories, children. There were these picture books,
Yeah.
beautifully packaged, and all of that, that will interest you, that will lure you into reading, even if
That's
you don't want
right.
to. So I started reading them, and that was how my story started changing again. By the time I finished, I started picking my first, second, and third again in class. So I was very good in literature because I had early exposure to all of these literary works. So that's why eventually I also became a writer and all of that.
That's great. Okay, at that point that you were separated from your siblings,
Yeah.
how did that make you feel? Didn't you miss them? The fact that you grew up with other.
Oh, that's usually one of the challenges that people who lost their parents and have to go and stay somewhere will usually face, because you miss your mother. In my own case, my mother is still alive. I missed her and my other siblings and all of that. So during holidays, Baba would take me back to Ilora. So I would go and do holidays with my siblings, then come back to Ibadan. But, because for me, by the grace of God, I was focused, I said, because looking at my brothers and sisters here in Ibadan, doing well in their education, I also wanted to, be like them. So I had role models, wonderful role models in them. So there was nothing that could keep me back at home at Ilora. When the holiday got finished, even though I knew I was going to miss them again, but I had to come back to Ibadan to continue my education.
All right, still on your profile, I saw that before you got into UI, you went to a school.
Yes.
In
Thank you for that.
College, yes.
When because I went to secondary modern commercial secondary school.
Yes.
It was 4 years. So we didn't have the opportunity of doing YA, GC and all of that.
Okay.
But no, because you are trained in commercial subjects.
Okay.
Shorthand, typing, bookkeeping, and what else? Commerce. Those were the major subjects that we did. In all of these subjects, I was very, very good. And in mathematics, English, literature, and all of that, history, all of those ones, we also did them. But majorly, commercial subjects, commerce, bookkeeping, shorthand, and
typing. You mentioned typing.
Typing as well. So I was also good in typing.
Okay.
Sometimes when I write my stories, I just put my computer there. I used to have one manual typewriter, but now the world of computer, so I will be, writing directly on the typewriter.
Okay, so I asked about the college you went to.
Yes, yeah. So now, when I finished my
St. Gabriel's.
St. Gabriel's, I had to go and work at my local government, then Afigio local government, Oyo South local government, now Afigio local government. I was working. So Baba who said I should go and he arranged that I should go and work there. So at that point, I had to prepare for my GCE because I wanted to go to the university. I needed my GCE, WAEC or whatever. So I could not enroll in secondary school, so I had to be at home studying on my own. So I had to enroll with Rapid Resource College of London. Rapid Resource College of London is a correspondence college. And correspondence college, they will be sending books to you.
Yeah.
You had your tutors, we call them tutors, not teachers. So they will be sending books to... Baba also did that.
Okay.
So I learned that from him. He did that because he was a very brilliant man. Very, very brilliant. Very brilliant. So he did Rapid Resource as well. He did it, and he got a lot of good results. So I also copied him. So I enrolled with Rapid Resource College. I was in Fiditi then, but working at Jobele. That was Oyo South local government, now Fiji local government. So while I was working, I would pay them. They would send the books to me, to the poster office in Fidelity. So I'll go and collect the books, sit down, be reading them. Whenever I didn't have much to do in the office, I'll take the books, some of the books to the office, create time, and then start reading them. So I was doing all of that. So they were teaching me. So I enrolled for all the subjects, and that was fantastic. Why? I just came to discover that these English people, they know how to teach very, very well. They taught me one principle. They actually sent to me, the first book they will send to you like this. You have to read it, digest it, and practice what is written there. So they taught me how to study. First of all, I had to create a timetable, and I have to follow the timetable strictly. They taught me I had to create time to play.
Okay.
Time to eat, time to do all of those things, I had to create them. Time to relax, I had to create that. I wrote all of those things in my timetable. So I fathomed them in my timetable as well.
Okay.
So I had to follow them strictly. And on public holidays too, I had to also take public holiday.
Wow.
As a private student, yes. So they were teaching me. They would send all the materials to me from abroad, from the UK, collect them, read them. Then they would do exams for me. I would have to say that each time I needed to do exam, I would lock myself up. That was how they taught me. So nobody could come and greet me. You can't just have access to me. So I would be in the room, do the exams. And I had to be truthful to myself. Because the exam will come at the end of each of the booklets.
Okay.
So, you had the liberty to go and check.
Exactly.
Yes,
But
that's right.
you'll be deceiving yourself if you did that. You'll be deceiving yourself. So, I wouldn't do that. So, having read through the books, they taught me to read each of those books 4 or 5 times to digest. And even they taught me that when I went out playing, I should be remembering some of the things that I had just learned. And each time I couldn't remember a particular thing, I should quickly rush back inside, go and check, then go back and start playing again. They taught me all of that. So I'll do the exam, send to them. It got to a stage that when we were close to the exam,
Maybe for how many years?
just for a year,
Okay.
Then you were able to sit for...
they were preparing me for GC,
GC exam.
O level then. So I'll send the answer sheet to them through the postal service. The postal service was very good then. So it was a correspondence thing. So I'll send it to them. They will mark, then resend to me. I'll go through. I'll see my marks. I had different tutors that I didn't see.
Okay.
But they were teaching me, and I was just following their instructions. It got to a stage that some of my tutors in some of the subjects would say, if you had done this thing faithfully and you got this, because I would get 60%, 70%, 80%, they were assuring me that I would just make my results. And lo and behold, that was exactly what happened.
Wow.
They taught me another thing. Think fast, write fast. Think fast, write fast. And they taught me how to practice that.
Okay.
So I knew all of that. I was very good in it.
Wow.
So by the time I went for my exams, you could imagine, I could recall that English language, we had 2 papers, you have to write essay and all of that.
Yeah.
By the time I finished all the papers, they told me 1 hour more.
Oh, wow.
And I finished everything. Because I had been, taught to think fast, write fast.
You were open to so many instructions that you followed.
Exactly.
The latter.
I followed those instructions strictly. Almost all the subjects that I did. There was another one when I did literature. They told me that there were about 3 papers, part 1, part 2, part 3. You do some of them in different days. There was one I did, and they said 45 minutes more. said, what will I do with 45 minutes again?
Wow.
There was another one I did, they say 30 minutes more, on and on like that. I give you an example, literature. Did you know that at the end of the day, I scored A1 in literature?
Oh, wow.
In spite of all the time that they were telling me I still had more.
More time.
I had finished because they had taught me.
Wow. Beautiful.
Think fast, right.
All right, so we need to take this commercial, this break rather, sorry. So yes, we'll be back. Stay with us. All right, thank you for staying by. It is still the mid-morning show on BCOS television, and that quote says, the biggest adventure you can take is to live the life of your dreams, Oprah Winfrey. We're still in conversation with our guest, the personality of the week, Mr. Tunde Ajayi, a thespian, a writer, a mediator, a community leader, and as well a farmer. So, sir, we need to, progress right now.
Yeah.
You wrote your GCE and then you got into the University of Ibadan.
Yes.
Okay. So I was, you were working at Afiju.
Yeah.
And then you had to come to University of Ibadan.
Yes.
So probably, did you leave your job or were you running both?
Oh, thank you. I left the
Simultaneously?
job. What happened?
Okay.
When I was in Fidelity, when I took my JAMB form. At the time I took my JAMB form, I was also doing my preparing for GC and all of that.
Okay.
So I filled the form. I didn't want anyone to know that I got JAMB form and all of that. Even my brother that I was staying with, because I didn't want a situation where I would fail. And then somebody would now say, and we gave you money and you failed. You wasted our money and all of that. So I didn't do that. So what happened? At that time, I hadn't much on me. No money, So I haven't done the exams. I picked Oyo, so I did my JAMB at Oyo and all of that. The result came out, I didn't know anything. It was a brother of mine who also did the exam, but he was staying in Lagos, who came home at a point. So he also did the exam. He came to check his own result at UI. Then he now told me that the result was out and all of that. I said I haven't gotten money to travel from Fidelity to Ibadan to come and check. But later on, I got money and I came. Lo and behold, when I got to UI and I saw the results, I went to the Department of Theatre Arts because I put in for. I was to study English language and theatre arts combined, but they gave me theatre arts eventually as a single course. So when I got there, I saw the result. I saw the Department of Theatre Arts pasted on the board. Did you know one thing? All other names had them ticked. with everybody saying congratulations and all that. It was my only name on top, because maybe by reason of my Ajayi, the surname, AJ. It was my only name that was just left there. Nobody had checked it. Nobody had made any remark. I looked at it. I was almost crying because I had been admitted. Don't forget that my O-level results was not yet out.
Exactly. Yes.
My JAM is out. I've been admitted. So I needed my O-level results. So I was waiting. I think few weeks after that, they announced that the result was out. So I had to go and check it at Technical College along our way. So when I got there, and they checked, and I saw A's and all of that, I was shaking because I knew then that I had become an undergraduate. Because, I had my admission into university. So I had to leave the job. Then I came to Ibadan and started my university education.
So it was bankrolled by
my brother.
Okay.
By my brother.
Okay. So you having the choice of English and theater art.
Yes.
At a time when theater art was not quite a prestigious career, what influenced that choice?
Well, like I said, I love literature, and I know I was very good in it. So when I was, then you had no one to actually educate you on some of these things properly. So, but I just decided, okay, I love English, I love literature, theater arts, okay, let me do combined honors. But later on I was giving, and to imagine that at that point, at that time, even the cutoff for theater arts was higher than English language.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. But because my scores was high then, so they gave me theater arts. So I went. Yes. I love novel, plays, and all of that. And when I was in my primary school, I used to even write plays. I remember, and what influenced me was there was this time they did Adam and Eve play. They did it in the school. They also did another one in the church, First Baptist Church in Laura. As a child, I love all of those things. Those were the influences on me. Okay. So I looked at the way they were acting and all of that. That influenced me. So that ginger my interest. And I said, okay, I'll do theater arts. So I started, because I had started writing then plays and all of that. Even those, at the time you look at the plays now that I wrote then, it's trash. The dustbin. So that was the influence.
So you found yourself at the University of Ibadan doing that. Yeah. What were the other extra things you were doing, like extra for hobbies? Was it just school, books, literature?
No. While I was in school, I also enrolled to be trained in martial art. Martial art has to do with kung fu. So interestingly, people used to look at me like, how could you go and learn kung fu? But I did. So I enrolled, for martial arts. So I was doing that. Not only that, during holidays, I'll go back home to Ilora to continue with my farming. Because I know, I remember that by the time when I got the admission, before then, I was working, so when I was getting some money, I was also doing some farming. I would ask some people to come and help me do farming. I couldn't do everything, so I'll pay them.
Okay.
So I was making money through that. So by the time I got the admission and I needed money, my brother gave me some, but I had to also sell off some of the things I had in the farm to pay some of the fees there and some other commitments. So I went on. When I got to UI, and I needed to stay at UI, within the campus. I couldn't because of the money. I couldn't get the money to get a room within the premises in the campus. So there was this friend of mine, Ganiyu Temitopo Ibrahim. He's now also retired. He retired as a permanent secretary in Ekiti State.
Wow.
That was last year, July. So he also, was a student. So he called me. He said, we met in class for the first time and, we got talking. And, we started moving together. And then he was having a room, so he started squatting me.
So that was how you escaped.
That was how I escaped that.
Oh, nice. All right. So you finished from UI, you went to serve, and then you got a job with
BCOS.
BCOS. How did that happen?
Thank you. When I served in Brush was having Adamawa and before the separation. So specifically I was posted to Damatu.
Okay.
So that was where I did my NYC. Then I came back to Ibadan after the NYC. So when I came back, I had to go to Baba Odele.
Okay.
So now I've finished though. And the man said, okay, now you need a job. Yes, I need a job. So then I heard that they were employing people at BCOS.
Okay.
So when I heard that, I went back to him. I said, Baba, they've started employing people at BCOS, so I also needed to get him there. He said, okay. So he gave me his card, addressed it to Chief Bamiji Ojo.
Okay.
Chief Bamiji Ojo is also from Ilora.
Wow.
So I brought the card to him. And at that time, Mr. Biodun Sanda was the general manager then.
Okay.
So they, somehow they started employing people, and I also started coming. So that was how I was employed. I got my letter that day when I stepped out of the premises, the same premises. I stepped out there. I had to take a bus back home. I was staying at UI with a brother then at UI, who was working then, I think, with UI. Then he had a place that he was staying, so I was staying with him. So I was just telling him, I was just looking at myself, wow, I've gotten a job as a producer. So I was very happy. I entered the bus there. I could recall that. And I was happy, very, very happy. So I started the job. I could recall some of the events that happened at the initial stage when I got here. Because I did theater arts, there was this man, Mr. Tunji Fatilewa, of blessed memory. He was then, he also did theater arts, so he was coming with drama proposal, and I was asked as a theater arts, a thespian. I was asked to be the producer, so I was producing and all of that. I recall we did 414 Connection. It was a drama, and the Right Honorable and all of that. So then there was an event that happened. One day they said, we used to have Awada Keri Keri also on TV. Awada Keri Keri was packaged by Baba Bello and Aluwe and all of those people. Bolanle, Aluwe, and all of them. Bolanle, this woman. Ogunmola. Peju Ogunmola. That team, then Wero, that team, they were all together, they were in Lagos. So there was this day I came to the office, and Mrs. Agumbeade was then my immediate boss. She also, worked here. She eventually became a general manager at the cultural center before she left. So I just got to office that day, and she called me. She said, Tunde, you follow Alhaji Jare Sobaloju. Alhaji Jare Sobaloju was then also in programs. I went to Lagos to go and record Awada Keri, some episodes of Awada Keri Keri. So I said, yes, ma'am. So I followed Alhaji Jare Sobaloju to Lagos that day. And, that was the first time, I would go for an assignment like that, a big time assignment like that. So I thought we would come back that day. Lo and behold, we didn't. We were there in Lagos recording, on the streets of Lagos, recording drama, Awada Keri Keri. And you know what happened? We didn't get back to Ibadan until the evening of the following morning, day.
Oh, wow.
So when we got here, the third day, when we arrived here, Mr. Agumbiyade just said, oh yeah, titi wa ma lọ lé o, because àwọn ẹgbẹ́ wọ́n ti wá sílé
Oh, yeah,
because
you
I
didn't
didn't
tell them
them.
that you were going to stay.
I just went to the office and they didn't see me. It was not the time of this phone that you could call and say this is where I am. I couldn't do that. So when we got back home, oh yeah, come, yeah, maloli, because they had come looking for you. So that was the first time I would be exposed to what kind of a job is this? You know. Then you didn't have your Saturdays, you didn't have your Sundays. You had to report to the office and work. That was.
I need to ask what kept you going. You know, rising from being a producer to eventually being the general manager of BCOS. So we're going to talk about, we're just going to wrap it up in summary, but that's going to be after this break.
Okay.
All right, so stay with us. We'll be back.